if you start to look through and kind of comb through your past and identify those instances, you'll learn for yourself what your intuition sounds like, what it feels like, and you can start to gain this track record for you of like, oh, when that happens, when I have that flutter in my stomach, when I'm feeling something, but the outside world tells me something different, but I'm like, wait a minute, something is not making sense. So I think everyone, you kind of start to create this little roadmap for yourself of what your intuition, what your higher wisdom, what your innate intelligence sounds like. Does it give you physical sensations? Do you have dreams? Do you get words or pictures in your mind that you're like, this doesn't make sense, but it feels right? So if you can start to pay attention to some of that and kind of peer into your past, be curious about it, you'll have a lot of clues that will support you in making wiser decisions moving forward.
Hey, this is Chad Namiro.
And I'm Kelley Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast,
a lifestyle podcast where we will interview guests about wellness, business, and just about everything in between.
Our goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through our conversations, we hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos.
We hope you enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Balancing Chaos podcast. Today, you've got me solo. Chad is out of town for a work trip, but it's actually a really great thing because we have one of the most amazing guests on the podcast today, and I want to give her as much speaking time as possible. Marie Forleo. Marie is an absolute icon. She is an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, a coach, a philanthropist. She's all the things. A multi-passionate entrepreneur is what she calls herself. And she's an absolute inspiration. I know you guys are going to learn so much today from her wisdom and knowledge. I've personally been following her for years, and I love everything she teaches because her mission is truly to make our lives better in every single way. So I know you, like me, have kind of a similar path. You became a coach in your 20s. How did you know that that was what you wanted to do?
Oh my goodness, Kelley. I definitely came to that from a whole lot of pain and a whole lot of mistakes. So when I graduated from Seton Hall University, I'm the first in my family to go to college.
Okay.
I got a job on the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street.
Yeah.
And I was super pumped because it's a place where there's literally no seats. Like they have these weird little fold down seats, but especially when I was there, and this is the late 90s, it's a lot of chaos and energy and excitement. And, I was like, this sounds like a really cool environment. And I remember going to work and I was so grateful to have a job and to have a paycheck and health benefits and all that stuff. And after about 6 months, like this little voice started piping up inside of me that was like, Marie, this isn't who you are. This isn't what you're meant to do. This isn't who you're supposed to be. And at first I was like, shh, I'm just putting on my game face. I'm like trying to be a professional here. And it was a very strange environment. First of all, it was like 99.9% men at that time. Yeah. It was pretty intense. Like every day it was like, the 4 o'clock bell would hit, and the whole culture was, not everyone, but a lot of it was you go to strip bars and do cocaine and drink it. Like it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And I kept having this feeling, I'm like, this isn't me. And I remember one day I came into work and I started feeling like physically ill, which was strange. I wasn't sick, but I was having trouble breathing and I was dizzy and lightheaded. And I said to my boss, I was like, hey, I just need to run out and get some coffee. Is that cool? He's like, fine. So I ran out of the floor and I didn't go and get coffee. I made a beeline to Trinity Church. So I was raised Catholic and I just graduated from a Catholic university. So I was kind of trained in moments of crisis to look up and ask for a little bit of help.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on the church steps and I'm crying my eyes out because I felt horrible knowing how much my parents had like busted their buns to put me through school and what a privilege it was to have work. And
Right.
Here I was wanting to quit because I hated it so bad, but I didn't know what else I wanted to do instead. And so the first message I got was call your dad, because he was the one I was really, I didn't want to disappoint him. Yeah. And so I'm doing the ugly cry, Kelley, and like snot's coming out of my nose. And I'm like, Dad, I'm so sorry. And I don't know what's wrong with me. And I, you work so hard. Anyway, I finally, took a breath and he's like, Ree, calm down. You're fine. He goes, look, you're going to work for the next 40, 50 years of your life. Here's the whole secret. You have to find something you love. And if this job is making you this sick, look, I'm not worried about you. You've been working since you were 9. You're going to keep a roof over your head. You'll put food on the table. You'll figure it out. Right. But you have to find something you love and you won't ever feel like this again. Now, my dad didn't tell me, Kelley, like how to do that, but he did give me right? Like this really
permission.
big permission slip. Correct. Yeah. Where I knew I wasn't going to bring shame upon my family if I quit the job. But, you know, I had to go find out what I loved. And the only two clues I had were that I loved small business. There was something about small business I liked because my dad was a small business owner. So I was exposed to that growing up. And I was also a very creative person. Like as a kid, I thought I actually wanted to be an animator for Disney or a fashion designer. So I had these two sides of myself.
Right.
And I thought, you know what? I wonder if the world of magazine publishing might be right. Like business, Wall Street, it's very, you know,
Yeah.
And I thought maybe magazine publishing would be a little bit of a different environment and draw upon all my strengths. So I went to a temp agency. I got a position as an ad sales assistant at Gourmet Magazine.
Okay.
I'm Italian American. I love food. This was perfect. So my desk was like outside of the test kitchen. It was so funny. And like all of the editors, they would like, hey, we've got a new, would you like to try? I'm like, yes, bring me the food. I'd like it. 6 months go by and it was really cool. I got to learn new things, completely new industry. It was awesome. But then that voice came back again. Marie, this isn't who you are. This isn't what you're meant to do. This isn't what you're supposed to be. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Like this made no sense. So I said, well, look, let me look at this rationally. Maybe I'm still too much on the business side, ad sales, numbers, meeting quotas, all those things. Maybe my creative side is really like starving. So I went to the HR department. I said, hey, if you have anything open in the editorial department, any magazine, I'll take it. Even if it's a lateral move or if I have to take a pay cut, I'm fine. They wound up getting me a position at Mademoiselle magazine in the fashion editorial department. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm working with designers. I'm going to fashion shows. This is like the coolest thing in the world. Nothing could be better. And for like the first few months, it was fun. It was novel, learning new things. And then what do you think happened? That friggin' voice came back again. Marie, this isn't who you are. At this point, Kelley, I'm like wanting to bang my head against the wall. I'm questioning whether or not I have some kind of cognitive committal deficiency.
Right.
I wanted to work. Work ethic was not my problem, but I also could not deny that every job I had felt like I was dying a slow death, and something kept coming up in me that was saying, this isn't what you're supposed to do. And I felt like I was going mad. One day I was on the internet, probably when I shouldn't have been. And I stumbled upon an article that at the time was talking about a new profession. So this is 1999.
Okay.
The new profession was called coaching. Right. And specifically talking about how you could work from anywhere, that you could support people and strategically help them achieve their goals. And Kelley, I swear to you, when I read this article, something in me lit up like a Christmas tree, like nothing ever before. It was as though the clouds parted and there was little angels and cherubs and like sunbeams shooting out of their eyes. And it was like, oh, like this is what you're supposed to do. And the logical part of my brain was like, what is this weird coaching thing? Like you're 23 years old. Who the hell is going to hire a 23-year-old life coach? You haven't even lived life yet. You are piles and piles in debt. You keep quitting your job. You are such a loser. Like this is one more thing you're going to fail at. But thankfully, I trusted that feeling. I signed up for a 3-year coach training program, and I started doing all of my training at night, like learning about this new skill, learning how to develop all of these capabilities. And then about 6 months in, I get a call from the HR department. It was actually, they had a promotion for me at Vogue. Best fashion magazine in the world, more money, more prestige. And that was my fork in the road. It was like, okay, are you going to stay on this safe path? People understand what you do. You know, it's kind of like she and prestigious, like you feel good about it, right? Steady paycheck, health benefits. Or are you going to quit and do this weird ass life coaching thing that no one at that time had heard of, that you're even skeptical of, yet you kind of love?
Yeah.
So I turned down the job, intuition, and I quit, and I went back to doing what I did in college, which was bartending and waiting tables. So I did that 7 nights a week while I figured out how to build a coaching practice during the day.
I love it so much. And like I said, the paths that the path that you have, like really, it sounds so aligned to kind of what I went through. And I definitely want to talk about the intuition piece, because I think that I've heard you talk about that before. And I think that you have so much insight into that topic. But before we even go there, I think one of the big things is like, there are so many people out there like both of us who are sitting in a job that they are unhappy in, that they are miserable in. Like mine was actually working for my dad. And so like going to him and being like, I'm quitting, like there was so much fear wrapped up in that. And then I also had a clothing business with my sister that I was like, also like, I'm quitting to become a health coach at 28. And so when you think about those like times where you quit, like, yes, your dad gave you the permission slip and so did mine, which I was so surprised by. Like, again, I had so much fear and he was like, no, do it. Do what makes you happy, which feels good. But what are some other tangible pieces of advice that you could give someone who's like, I'm miserable in my job and I'm so afraid to quit, because quitting in America is like the big no-no.
Right.
What could you tell them?
Well, a couple things. One, I think that it's so important just looking at it from a financial perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you are someone who just has a basic grip on your finances, and one of the gifts that I think my parents gave me was really kind of trying as best as I could. And I was not good at this in my early 20s. I failed at it miserably, but at least I had the kernel of the idea, was to not grossly outspend what I earned. So I was in debt, and I did get in debt, but it wasn't insane amounts of debt. Mm-hmm. And I really understood that, hey, if I quit this job, I have to hustle my buns off. And for me, it came down to bartending and waiting tables, which I was totally willing to do to keep myself solvent while I gave myself a little bit of room to explore. Yes. So I think just having a basic grip on your finances and having real talk with yourself about, hey, look, I can totally quit, but I might need to piece together some gig jobs on the side, or kind of make other sacrifices in order to give myself the mental, emotional, and kind of exploration space that I'm going to need to find something different. Right. So I think that's a really tangible piece of advice. I think depending on what stage and season of life you're in, you know, if you're single and you don't necessarily have other people that are depending on you, that's one situation that you might be in. And for others, there might be a significant other, there might be other folks that you're responsible for. So I think having mature adult conversations about what you want to do and how and if that could impact the other people that you live with, that's something that's important. And I think it's also important too, like if you're really miserable at a job, to really step back and ask yourself some questions like, you know, is it the attitude I'm bringing to this job? Is it the job environment? Is it the people that I'm working for? Like really start to get curious about what is it about this particular role that you don't like. So for me, I realized going to an office every single day felt like a death sentence for me.
Yeah,
because
totally.
I'm just not built right to go to the same place. But I actually spent a good portion, like after I quit my job at Mademoiselle and I started my coaching practice, I wound up developing a simul career in health, fitness, and dance. And because I became really good at what I did, I had a management position within the gym chain Crunch for several years as part of everything I was doing. But I didn't have to show up to the office every day. Like what they wanted me to do was this organizational piece that I was very, very good at, but I could do it from anywhere. And this is way before remote work, right? We're talking like 2003, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding, I think, what aspects of the job really don't work for you. And are there transferable skills that might help you create a bridge between what you're doing now and what you might want to do in the future?
I love that. I think all of those tips are really tangible. And I think that that's what our audience loves. They love to hear like real pieces of advice that they can take away and actually implement. Yes. So I appreciate that. Like I said, I want to talk about intuition because I think that for like you said, even in that like decision of like, okay, am I going to go do the thing at Vogue, which like sounds like really like glamorous and wonderful, or am I going to go do this health coaching thing that sounds really scary, right? But also, but also still very exciting to you. I think that for so many of us, there can be this confusion of like, what's the right decision to make intuitively? How do I get in touch with like what's actually in alignment for me versus like making the choice based on, you know, wanting to be more successful or whatever the case may be. So do you feel like you've always had that kind of really good sense of intuition and knowing what the right path is for you? And if you didn't, how did you cultivate that?
Yeah. So one of the gifts that my mom gave me, which was huge. So I was a really independent, boisterous kind of kid. Yeah. And kindergarten came around. I grew up in New Jersey and I like wanted to walk to school on my own. It was the kind of neighborhood where you could walk to school, but kindergarten, too young, too far. Mom's like, what are you nuts? Like, come on, you're 4. And I was like, every single year, I'm like, I want to walk to school on my own. And eventually she said, look, I'm going to let you walk to school, but you've got to promise me. And she gave me this whole speech about the fact that I have this little voice inside. And she connected it. She said, that's your kind of direct access to God. That's how God talks to you. And if you listen to it, he's always going to guide you to keep you safe. He's going to guide you in the right direction. And she's like, so for example, you're walking to school, somebody comes up and it's like, hey, little girl, want some candy, and tries to get you over to the car. And you feel that feeling of fear, run, always listen to that little voice, whatever it says to you to do. So even having that conceptually as a kid, that I could listen to a voice, there was an internal voice, it was messaging that was trying to help guide me in the right direction in life. Those are all pretty cool concepts to understand at that age. So I grew up with that framework, and I kept paying attention to how things felt, which gave me a real connection to my own body's wisdom, not necessarily my mind or my ego.
Right.
So I think practice makes perfect, right? And I think everyone has innate wisdom. Everyone has an ability to hear this higher source of guidance, this higher source of intelligence that's innate for all of us. You just might be so accustomed to listen to your mind or your ego or what the outside world says. It's just you're not practiced at it yet. So I think most of us have had experiences in life where we were presented with an opportunity, whether it was an opportunity related to our career or to work, or maybe it was about meeting someone or going on a trip or doing something, where you were presented with a choice, and something in you, whether it was a gut feeling or, a little flitter that passed through your consciousness, was like, but your ego wanted to say yes. Either because the cool people were going, or you thought it was going to make you more attractive, or you thought saying yes was going to help you climb some sort of ladder or gain money or status or something. And you overrode that little feeling, and it wound up being a mess. You paid for it. It was something that either you regret or you look back on and go, why didn't I listen to that feeling? Why didn't I pay attention to that little red flag? Why was I so headstrong and stubborn about what I want to do? And you kind of barreled past your own wisdom. Do you have an experience like that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can think of so many, like even, my husband, who I'm married to now, we ended up breaking up for like 2+ years. And a lot of the there was definitely growing that each of us needed to do, but a lot of the breakup happened because there were like these external voices being like, you guys don't belong together. You're not meant for each other, like whatever. And then when I was like thinking about getting back together with him, and, we hadn't talked in a year or so, people are like, family, friends, whatever, we're like, don't reach out to him. You shouldn't reach out to him. But like something within me, I mean, it still worked out because I ended up doing it, but like it could have happened sooner because
Yes, exactly. Same thing. Most of us have those examples in life where we didn't listen to our own instincts because either external voices or even our ego or our mind wanted to pay attention to something else. So that's a way for people, if you start to look through and kind of comb through your past and identify those instances, you'll learn for yourself what your intuition sounds like, what it feels like. And you can start to gain this track record for you of like, oh, when that happens, when I have that flutter in my stomach, when I'm feeling something, but the outside world tells me something different, but I'm like, wait a minute, something is not making sense. So I think you kind of start to create this little roadmap for yourself of what your intuition, what your higher wisdom, what your innate intelligence sounds like. Does it give you physical sensations? Do you have dreams? Do you get words or pictures in your mind that you're like, this doesn't make sense, but it feels right? So if you can start to pay attention to some of that and kind of peer into your past, be curious about it, you'll have a lot of clues that will support you in making wiser decisions moving forward.
I love that. I think that that's so helpful because yes, like for everyone, it's going to be a different thing. Like for me, it's like almost like a feeling in my like center. What are you like this your solar plexus chakra, like your gut feel, like it's a feeling. But for everyone, that sensation is going to be different. And so noticing what that is for you is going to help you connect to it more deeply going forward. Now, what I will say is for myself, like I know back when I had this corporate job, and I also was like very disconnected from self because I was constantly trying to live up to everybody else's expectations of me, I was using things like caffeine as stimulants. I was like 3 cups of coffee a day. And then I don't drink alcohol anymore, but at the time I would have like 2 glasses of wine to wind down at night. And I feel like those things. And then I was also a person who would be like constantly calling my mom for like external validation and for her to tell me what to do. Were things that disconnected me from my intuition. Is there anything else in your kind of mind that does that disconnects us?
Oh, 100%. It's technology.
Oh gosh, yes.
It's technology. It's like whether you're in your phone on social, which is probably one of the most detrimental things that you can do if what your aim is to be more in touch with and to hear clearly the voice of your own soul. So anytime on social media, emails, even just numbing out with honest, I mean, I love Netflix as much as the next person, but when you put yourself in a state where you're just receptive to media, it's very, very difficult for you to hear or feel anything from the inside out. And so, you only have 24 hours in a day. So if you're working your buns off all day and you're not really spending time in nature or you're not moving your body, and every single minute is filled with some type of media consumption, it's going to be impossible for you to know what the hell you think or feel because you're over flooded with incoming.
100%. As a coach who kind of one of my focuses with my clients is on hormones and health. Like I talk a lot about that because it's like people think that they're going to social media to turn off and like to decompress, quote unquote. And the reality is that you're completely activating your sympathetic nervous system. Your mind is constantly trying to upload new information. And so in doing that, you're really never giving your body the space to rest. And what you're saying too is that you're never really getting your mind the space to connect deeply to your higher self.
Or to your body at all. It's just like, it's a programming machine. And if you think about it as anything else, you're lying to yourself. You really are.
Totally. As for you as an entrepreneur and somebody who, you have all of these businesses, and we're going to talk about that. You have a social media presence.
Yep.
How do you balance that?
I'm rarely on it. So I know how to create media and I know how to create content. And I love that. Right. So writing a book, creating a podcast, talking with you, creating, hundreds and hundreds of episodes of MarieTV. Yeah. Creating online courses. That's an act for me of beautiful creation. So sitting down, being intentional, having fun, entertaining, performing, all of that. I love it. But prior to social media, let's just say like prior to the huge rise of Instagram. So when I first started my show, MarieTV, it's like I had a small team at the time. I would shoot my video, I would shoot an episode, but I'm not necessarily the one uploading it to YouTube, right? Like we've got other people to do that. It's not the best use of my time. Just like with social media, I can create content for social media, but I don't have to be on social media. Those are 2 very different things. And for instances where I want to be on social media, I'm like, oh, well, we're doing an Instagram live and I want to interact with people and have those kind of conversations back and forth. Like, that's great. It's super intentional. It's for a purpose. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. It's usually no more than 15 or 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing as me sitting down and creating content or giving a talk or doing so many of the other things that I do that are an intrinsic part of my mission. But just sitting there scrolling on social media has nothing to do with my purpose on earth. Nothing.
Right. It's not feeding you in any way, which is
it's horrible for me. It's absolutely horrible for me because I have a brain, I have an ego like everyone else. And social media is absolutely built so that all you do is compare yourself to other people. And 99.9% of the time, most of us come up short because there's always going to be someone else who's got more likes, who's got more followers, who's doing something more creative, who's ahead of you, and all of that perpetuates really the egoic illusion of separation and puts us at odds with ourselves and with other people. It's just feeding into the very worst of being a human in a human body. And it's not something I'm interested in.
I love that you're giving people who are listening the permission to not have to be on, because one of the things that I have done for myself since 2021, because I started to feel really shitty every time I would open the app. I felt horrible. Like, because of that exact thing that you're talking about, the nature of comparison that it kind of breeds. I gave myself the permission that anytime I feel like it, I'm going to completely delete the app and take a break. And there's like this fear behind it, because the first time I did it was 2 days, and then a week, and then, 2 weeks. And then finally, it was 6 weeks. And now I did a month long in October, a month long in March. And the fear starts to kind of go away, because it's like, I'm really not missing out on anything. I'm actually living my life. I'm serving my clients and the community that I have built so much better. And it has allowed me to implement the boundaries that I want to have there more intentionally.
Well, the fact of you feeling some kind of fear. So there's a couple of things. One, I often call, because again, so for me, my like college years were in the 90s. And I don't know if you remember this or you ever even exposed to this. And I know you don't drink any longer, but like, so for me, I was a party girl in college, right?
Same. Oh,
yeah. So there was this really horrible liqueur called Goldschlager.
Yes.
Back in the day, right? So cinnamon flavored, and it had these gold flakes in it. And in my world, like we would do shots of Goldschlager in college. And inevitably I would do too many. And Goldschlager, like I'm like throwing up in the bushes at campus, right? Like that's the truth. And comparison, going on social media and looking at what everyone else is doing and then feeling like shit for like at least days, if not weeks, it worms into your brain. That's called Comparschlager. It's the equivalent. It's equally as toxic, not only for your body because the amount of cortisol and stress that it will produce, but more for your creativity, for your happiness, for your well-being, your ability to rest and digest and sleep, all of that. Right. So it's like, put down the Comparschlager, stop doing shots of it, get sober. Don't do it anymore, because not only will you not feel good, but you're going to be so off track with hearing what originally needs to come out of you. You're going to be chasing other people's goals. You're going to be imitating other people. You're going to be trying to do what they do, but it's not going to be as good because they're doing them and you're trying to do a version of them. So there's all of these downstream negative effects that come from Comparschlager that are not that indifferent from doing shots of Goldschlager. So that's one thing. The second thing, you feeling a sense of fear that and be honest, the sense of fear is irrelevance. The sense of fear is losing what you've gained. The sense of fear is that everyone else is going to get ahead of you and that you've worked so hard. And if you take a rest, you're going to lose everything that you've built up to this point, that all of your followers and all of your people are going to wind up getting hooked on someone else. You're going to stop making the money. You're not going to be as popular. You're not going to be as relevant. And you're not going to be as successful.
That's it.
That is by design. That is how these social networks are built. That's how they were intentionally built, to keep all of us hooked like a drug addict.
Yes.
So to be able to understand that, oh, they want me to feel afraid. They want me to feel, especially for women, right? And I mean, men feel this too. Everyone feels it. It doesn't matter how you identify. However, I just have a large audience of women. I happen to be a woman. Yep. And so, especially, hey, you want to start talking about, oh, are you getting a little bit older? You want to talk about all the different layers of, oh, as women begin to advance in age, you're going to be losing relevance. Your best days are behind you. Like, there is such a tiramisu of fear underneath that. That you have to be aware of it, and you have to know the game so that you don't get played.
That's so beautifully said. So beautifully said. And I think just like us having this conversation will, even like when I decided to take the last break that I took, it does give other people permission to do the same and to take space and to say, okay, how is this impacting? And again, like you said at the beginning, like getting really curious versus judgmental with yourself of like, what are all of the ways that this might be negatively impacting my mental health, my career, what I want to be doing with my life? Like, one of the things that you talk about in your book, which I love, Everything is Figure Outable, is about tracking time. And
I was just going to say this, not to interrupt you, but
No,
it's like, hey, you want to make this real practical? You want to take and have a good experiment out into the field of your own exploratory, what makes my life work? Go get a journal, check out every single time that you are on social media, and then write down how you feel the hour after, 2 hour after, 3 hour after. How are you interacting with people? Are you a little more snappy with your loved ones? Are you looking around for something cute because you need to compete and get the best next shot? Like, just be a curious, creative scientist and track how good you feel and what you are actually producing. And then forget about even talking about the time aspect of it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Kelley, so a couple of years ago, I gave birth to this program called Time Genius.
Okay.
So join Time Genius. It's friggin' amazing. It's one of the best things I've ever created. One of the things that we do in the program is I walk people through tracking their time. We talk about, and everything is figure outable too. Not rocket science. Most people resist doing it because it's really confronting, because it can be really embarrassing and it can be really uncomfortable to see, for all of us, myself included, how we fritter away the most precious resource we will ever have, which is our time and our attention. And so obviously we've got great tools right now. You know, we've got screen time, we've got all kinds of things. But I'll tell you this is a stat when I was putting together this program that absolutely blew my mind, and that it helps us all get real with ourselves, real big reality check. The average American will now spend the equivalent of 44 years of their life staring at screens.
Oh my gosh.
44 years. So between computers,
right,
desktops, laptops, phones, iPads, gaming devices, televisions, all the things, 44 years of life. Now, I don't know about you, but I do not believe that the purpose of a human life is to spend 44 years sucked into a screen. I don't believe it's what you were created for. You were created for so much more. Tracking like the impact of your screen time, of your social media time, whatever your vice of choice is, and merely tracking the time, you will want to throw up. Like, you will be like, oh my, what the hell was I thinking? And this is all good news, because once you have a wake-up call like that and you start to look at what else you could be experiencing, what else you could be accomplishing, or honestly just being. Yes. You don't even have to. Like, for some of us, we're at a stage and season of life where it's like, oh, I really want to get a book done. Or, you know what, I'd really love to launch this course, or I want to start a new MBA program, or I just want to spend more time with my kids, or I want to be with my husband, or my parents are aging. I mean, there could be a gajillion things. And for some people in our program, you know what they wanted to do, Kelley? Friggin' take a nap without guilt.
Yes.
Lay in the grass and look at the clouds. Or maybe sing, or take a dance class, or just have open space to do nothing and to see what might bubble up. Talking about intuition, what might your soul want you to do next? Not this machine that's making you think you're constantly behind, you're too old, you're not good enough, you're not successful enough, all that BS.
I remember a time in my life when springtime would hit, and immediately I would be searching for a new trainer or Googling all of the 7-day juice cleanse, 14-day detoxes so that I could get myself in shape for summer. And what I didn't realize at this time was that all of that was a complete waste of my time, of my energy, of my resources. And I look back on that just wishing for those hours and all of that energy and brain power back. The decisions that I was making for my body were coming from a place of punishment rather than from a place of love. And it wasn't until I started meditating and I started doing the work, the real work on myself, that I recognized that I needed to nourish my body with both movement and food and mindset work if I ever wanted my body to love me back in a sustainable way. And that's why the WBK membership, that I release meditations where I deeply connect you with yourself, and blood sugar balancing recipes to nourish you on a cellular level, and low impact movement to support the delicate balance of your hormones, really gets you the results that you're looking for, where it starts to become a lifestyle. It starts to become who you are. I can tell you firsthand that both myself and my members, my private clients, all of us have seen the most incredible results from the WBK method. It's so different than your typical diet and
a restrictive approach that we're taught from diet culture from a very early age. As a 33-year-old mom of 2, this is the leanest I've ever been, the most energy that I've ever had, and the best that I have ever felt in my freaking body. And it can be that way for you too. So right now, with the code Balancing Chaos, all one word, BALANCINGCHAOS, you can get 10% off your annual membership for the WBK method and get new weekly content, plus a library of hundreds of workouts, recipes, meditations, with a 7-day reset and a 30-day challenge, all to get you started. So use the code Balancing Chaos, again, all one word, to start your 7-day free trial and see, when you love your body back, how your body starts to love you.
For me, like the time off of social media, it was so confronting because it was like, wow, I have so much time back. And like, I was prompted so often to create content or to answer people's DMs or whatever it was, when the reality was that like none of that was actually pressing or urgent or even necessarily what I wanted to be doing.
Yes.
And so getting more in touch with that, like of like, even like being able to, oh my gosh, I have so much more time to spend with my kids. Like I highly encourage, I have clients do this all the time, like track your time and see how much time you're spending in front of a screen. Cause not only is it like going to allow you to do so much more of what you do want to do, it's also like for people who are dealing with anxiety, depression, like all of that is highly contributory to how you are feeling.
100%. Like 100%, like to have a digital detox and to radically reduce the amount of time that you spend consuming media. So I live my life by mantras. So I was diagnosed with ADHD. I have a very special brain, like many of us do, that can go in a lot of different directions at once. And so I get that. Mm-hmm. And as a multi-passion entrepreneur, it's like, there's always going to be things pulling on my attention. But here's what I know to be true. So another one of my favorite mantras is create before you consume. Create before you consume. So if you radically reduce the amount of consumption, the amount of incoming, and you start to think more of yourself, which is the truth, in my opinion, of who you really are, which is a divine creator. What do you want to create? Would you like to create a stronger mind? Maybe you want to spend a few minutes in stillness every day. Would you like to create more love and connection with your kids or your significant other or your parents or your friends? Would you like to create a stronger connection with spirit or God or however you identify that practice, your faith practice? Would you like to create a sonnet, your next book, a new recipe, some exploration of there's endless, you could create a stronger body, 15 minutes. Sometimes I'm making my coffee, doing some squats, doing some little calf raises, doing whatever it is. It's like, there are so many, like creation doesn't necessarily mean hardcore production. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean like producing. It's about what do you want to create with your time, your energy, your attention on this earth. And as that relates to anxiety and depression, creating more time in nature, man, for most of us, I have been there. In the depths of depression and anxiety, going like, what happened to me? Like, what the hell went wrong? And the moment I get a little more flow and balance and stability and stillness, I get my ass out in nature. I'm moving my body a little more. I'm present. I'm not consuming as much. It is not surprising how much better I feel so quickly.
Totally. So one of the things that you kind of mentioned in that is like, thinking about like creating, like you said, creating a stronger mind, creating stillness, creating whatever it is, more time with your family. As someone who is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, I'm sure like knowing how much you have going on and how many things you produce, that you could always be doing something if you allowed yourself to be.
For sure.
How have you because I always thought too, like when I quit my corporate job, I was like, okay, now I have my own career and I am going to have so much balance and I'm going to be so present. And a big part of that, again, was like the social media thing and creating boundaries there. But like, how have you put the proper boundaries into place and given yourself permission to do things like rest and relax and be with your partner and all of those different things?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I wasn't good at it for many years. Like that was not an easy transition for me. I love work. Workaholism, like that's like second nature to me. Do you know what I mean? So I failed at having balance for many, 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 many years. I did not have it. And that's the only way that I was able to like start to have it, was because I created so much pain for myself that, you know, sometimes for me, at least, that's what I needed to wake up and go, you know what, maybe my way isn't really working. Like maybe I need to try something else.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it really came when it was great. It was actually, gosh, I don't know how many years ago this was now, has to be maybe like 16 or something, with my partner, when he was like, I think we're done. And I was like, wait, what? Like, you know, I knew that he was the love of my life. And he was like, I don't think I love you anymore. And it was like, I remember it feeling like such a punch in the gut. And I was so shocked, and I was so, you know, it had not to do with anyone else. And it wasn't like we were necessarily fighting a ton, and there wasn't necessarily outside forces. The truth was, I worked all the time, and I didn't give him anywhere near enough attention. And he felt like he was second fiddle. And the truth was, he was not based on what I wanted in my heart, but what my illusion was. My illusion was that he was the most important thing. The reality, based on how I was spending my time, was that he was not.
And that maybe because it was because of your definition of success at the time?
Yeah, it was just because I was driven, and I was so, you know, when you don't come from a lot, which I don't come from a lot of money, and I didn't have much, and I felt like I had a ton to prove, and I was really, really scared and wanted to be a success, and I was not going to let up until I felt I had achieved that. But you know, it was running me. It was like a fear running me.
Yes.
But I was like a fish in water. I really couldn't see it. To be perfectly honest with you. Do you know what I mean? I was like, no, this is just what it takes. This is what I have to do. Don't you understand? I'm running a company. I have all of these people that I'm responsible for their livelihoods. I'm responsible for their paychecks. I'm responsible for this. I'm responsible for everything. Everything is on my shoulders. You just need to sit down.
Yes. Yes. I mean, my husband and I went through something very similar, to the point where like we were arguing a lot, and like we were arguing a lot about my business. And like, I truly am in agreement that like, it really was a catalyst for me to be like, okay, like that was part of the reason that I was like, I need to start taking some space from social media. I need to start like, you know, putting the phone away at this time. Cause I would have clients call me at 9 o'clock at night, and I would answer. He'd be like, this is our time. Like, what?
He's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Rightfully so.
Right.
Rightfully so.
And so do you think it's about like reassessing priorities in that moment?
I think it is. And I think it's about being courageous enough to tell yourself the truth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And having the courage and the honesty to tell yourself the real truth about what really is more important to you. What do you want? What does come first? And if you're going to say it, you got to have your actions line up.
Yes.
You know, so that, in addition to a bunch of therapy, honestly, of like, do you know what I mean? That helped. And then really, you know, just continuing to see, like Josh, who we've been together now 20 years. And it's, you know, we didn't break up, but it was like really, really close. And I had to fight my ass off to keep that relationship, because I didn't want to lose him, because I knew in my heart, I knew in my soul, I was like, this is my person. Something's not right here. But I was like, I know we can figure this out, because that's my mantra, and I do believe it, and I live it. But it took work. It took a lot of work, and it took a lot of work for me. And I just continued. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about age and getting older and having more experience, is you have some perspective, and you can see things, and you know, and I've noticed this not only about myself, but I've noticed this about other people too. And it's a really beautiful thing, is that a lot of times, not everyone, but for a lot of people, the older that you get, like you're a little looser. You're a little more, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to be wound up so tight, and you're a little more willing to see things from different points of views, and also be like, you don't have to be the right one all the time.
Yes.
So there's all this beauty that comes, that I think, at least for me, I didn't have access to in my early 20s, let's say.
Yeah.
And so also recognizing like, hey, I know how to work really hard. I know what it's like to work 24/7. Like I've been there and done that. Like, let's try a different flavor. How about that? Let's experience something different.
So with you saying, you know, because you referenced your book in that, and being like, okay, I'm going to figure this out and figure out how to make this relationship work. And talking about everything being figure outable, do you feel like with that, and I definitely want people to go out and get the book because it is so helpful and there's so many tangible tools in it, but do you feel like you have to have this for everything to be figure outable? Do you have to have the growth mindset? Do you have to be open?
Yes. Yeah. No. So here's the deal. If you don't think anything, if you're like, no, everything is not figure outable. I would be like, I honor and respect your point of view. And because you believe that, you are 100% right. Like 100% right. Yeah. I can invite you to possibly see things from another point of view. I've got tons of backup and scientific proof in the book that you're willing to investigate, you know what I mean? Get curious around and take a look at. And then should you so choose, I invite you to adopt that belief for yourself. And here's the beautiful thing. All beliefs are a choice and all choices can be changed. So, but if you are hell bent on digging your heels in and saying, absolutely not, then it's just like Henry Ford, that famous quote, whether you like him or not, there's truth in the essence of whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are right.
Yes.
So that's truth with a capital T.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. So having that growth mindset and understanding, and again, this is backed by science. So our brains, the neuroplasticity of our brains, we know this for a fact to be true, that we can change our brains, not only metaphorically in our minds, but we can change the physical structure of our brains through the environment, through repetition. It's how we learn all new skills. But so anything that you've believed in the past, you can believe something different in the future. Anything you've achieved in the past, you can achieve something different in the future. Again, this is backed by science. It's not my opinion. This is fact.
Yeah. I think that it is so true. And I find that to be the case, because I think that for so many years, I had so many limiting beliefs, whether it was around my body, like I will only be successful or loved if my body looks a certain way, because I had an eating disorder for years, or like I will only be successful in my coaching business if I work X amount of hours.
Yep.
Question one, do we learn these limiting beliefs in childhood, or where do we pick them up?
I think from everywhere. So let's answer that one first. Okay. So our families are going to do the very best they can, right? And so they learned about their model of the world from their family and caretakers and society and media at that time. And so there's this pass down effect. And so, of course, you are like a sponge. Every child is like a sponge, like a little innocent sponge that absorbs the beliefs and the mores and the possibilities. And this is how the world works. And this is what success means. And this is what success doesn't mean. Like all of us learn that unconsciously from the people around us, school, family, loved ones, caretakers, media, anything we're exposed to, right? And we should not make anyone wrong or blame anyone, because everyone I've known, even folks that come from extraordinary difficulty, this is one thing that I believe to be true, that every human, no matter how heinous something could be, from their point of view, from their internal model, they are doing the best that they can, right? No blame, no shame. You know, our souls came here to evolve, and everyone, again, from their own internal point of view, is doing the best that they can. So yeah, we basically absorb this unconscious programming from a very young age. And most of us, especially in grade school or high school, we're not even taught that we're programmed. We have no idea that there is a separation between, oh, like I have a mind, but I am not my mind.
Yeah, this is just a thought. Like,
correct. Correct. So any of those conversations about consciousness and separating mind and ego from the higher self and understanding some of the nuance of what it means to be human and what it means to change our beliefs, change our mind, change our behavior, become who we are truly meant to be, who we really are inside. Like all of that for most of us doesn't come until much later. And by that time, we've acquired so much baggage. It's going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of time to, you know, start to peel some of that back.
Right. Exactly. So my part two of that question was like, do we need to know where the beliefs came from? Because like, I think that in therapy and like through so much of the work I've done on myself, like I know now where the beliefs came from. Do we need to know where they came from to be able to undo them or no?
Personal opinion? No.
Okay.
I don't think so. Like, you know what I mean? It can be whatever, mildly entertaining,
Yes.
somewhat of a little bit of a fishing expedition. It might be, fun talk with you and your bestie, maybe, or maybe you're just like, oh, we're so over it. Like, can we please move on?
Right.
So if it gets you to a place of growth, again, I am not a big person when it comes to blaming, shaming, or complaining. I just feel like that keeps us caught, stuck, rooted in a space of separation and pain and suffering. So observation, awareness, non-judgmentalness. Oh, look, wow, interesting. Okay. That energy, that type of spirit, I feel creates faster transformation, keeps us connected to our heart, and keeps us in this expansive place. So to answer your question, absolutely not. I don't think it is necessary. One of the reasons I wanted to write Everything is Figureoutable, because I feel like it is a somewhat of a meta belief. And what I mean by that is that if you adopt this one, again, and I invite you to be skeptical, try it before you deny it. You can take yourself through a whole bunch of steps so you can see for yourself how awesome it works.
Yeah.
But once you get on board with Everything is Figureoutable, it almost is like the top domino that knocks everything else down.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh shit, well, I'm not really that good with money, but if everything is figureoutable, then money's figureoutable. And like, yeah, you could peer around some of the money beliefs that might be stopping you, but you don't really need to, only if it's fun, like having a little bit of cotton candy because it's entertaining. Or I'm not really so good, relationships, right? You seem to have some type of pattern that comes up. You don't necessarily have to go unpacking all the stuff that your parents did wrong, or you learned from this one or that one. Like you could, if it's entertaining, but relationships are figureoutable. So you stay in this solution-oriented mindset where you're like, well, who has some really awesome tools and frameworks that can create healthy, thriving human relationships? Like that's a much more productive, forward-moving inquiry to ask yourself.
Yes, I completely agree. And I love that you say that. Like, it's kind of like, if you think about everything being figureoutable, it's like, okay, how can I ask myself that question when any of these different sort of limiting beliefs come up? So I want to do like almost like a quick little almost example, because I think the money thing rings true for so many people.
Yes.
Like I have a ton of clients who are like trying to start coaching businesses right now. And I know that's a thing that obviously you work on with so many people. And so it's like, let's say there's somebody who's like, oh my gosh, I don't have the following that Marie has. I don't have this. I don't have that. I'm never going to be successful as a coach. Like how do they start to unravel that limiting belief?
Yes. Okay. First of all, just coming in for a little nice grounding reality check. Like I had nobody, right? Like when I was first starting out in bartending, like people would be like, oh, what do you do besides bartending? Are you an actress? I'm like, I'm a life coach. And, I would bring out my little, my little pad and get people to sign up. Point being, it's like, I literally signed up people, Kelley, to my email list one by one. That's how all of us start, right?
Same.
So it's like comparing yourself to me or anyone even like a couple years ahead of you. You're doing shots of Complairschlag, or you're going to be on the floor, yakking. It's the ugly cry. Don't go there. So it's more productive to just say, I'd really love to be a coach. That's what my dream is. I want to be a thriving coach. And here's what that looks like. Here's the amount of money I'd like to earn, let's say in the next 12 months or 24 months or 36 months. Great. Why? Why is this all important to me? What's my mission? Like what lights my heart up on fire? Okay, great. I can start to see some of that. Now, here's where I am right now. I don't have any subscribers. I don't have any clients, but here's where I want to get to. Okay, what's this gap analysis? What is going to make the difference? What skills do I need to gain in order to reach my next milestone, right? Who do I need to learn from? What do I need to develop as a discipline? Those are really important questions. This whole narrative, I'm never. Once again, we come back to this, well, it's not all figureoutable. It's like, okay, so then you should sit down and just take yourself out of the game, because with that mindset and that narrative, you're going to prove yourself right. You will prove yourself right. But if you're interested in doing it another way, you're like, oh, you have a growth mindset. And you're like, oh, okay. If I want to get there and I'm here, let me identify the skills, the disciplines, the practices, the capabilities that I need to develop right now in order to hit that milestone. I need to understand how to create content. I need to understand not just how to be a great health coach, but how to run a great health coaching business. Oh, that's a whole other, I can learn that? Great. I need to understand marketing. I need to understand how to communicate consistently. Like there's all of these skills that are not soft skills. They are hard, learnable, achievable capabilities. You start lining those up. You start putting yourself in those environments to close that gap. all of a sudden, before you know it, 12 months, it's like, you're going to have progress. Now you're gonna be like, whoa, I started out with like nobody. And now I've got a couple hundred or a couple thousand people that actually want to hear from me.
Yes.
Oh, great. What's my next milestone? That's how I did it. And that's a version of, it's a very simplistic version, but it's the truth of how anyone successful in any area, pretty much, maybe not 100%, but 90% of us who build something from nothing, that's exactly how we do it.
Yeah. You start versus, because if you don't start and you don't actually rip off the Band-Aid, because I think there are so many people with that paralysis of like, it's not going to be perfect yet. Like, I'm not going to do it, or whatever the case may be. And so they don't start, and they think they have imposter syndrome, whatever it is. It's like, that's what inhibits you from actually having the thing that you want to have. Because I was the same way. Like, I didn't start, with a multi-thousand person newsletter list. You get one at a time.
Listen, can I just tell you this? Do you want to know how many people out there and how many coaches or influencers or motivational speakers or whatever the thing is have a good, like literally millions more followers than me? Yes. Literally, go check it out. I'm happy for them. There's more than enough to go around.
Oh yeah.
I am like amazingly grateful. I'm super excited. I have built, am experiencing, am building the business and life that I love. Just because somebody else is doing this thing over here that's this size or this size, it doesn't take away from what I do. And my success doesn't take away from them. So it's just like, again, like take it back and really see the Comparschlager for what it is, and stay in the game of skill building and capability and that beautiful gap analysis. Where am I now? Where's that next milestone that I want to get to? And what are the skills and capabilities I need to get and build and acquire in order to get there? And how do I get them? Can I hire a coach? Can I learn from a program? Do I need to read a book? Like, what do you need to do? And for everyone, it's different. I am a lifelong learner. I'm constantly in student mode. I'm constantly in curious mode. I'm in touch with so many people that are so incredibly successful. And we'll talk or whatever. And I'll be like, I want to learn from you. Tell me more. I want to understand what you want. Tell me. I'm here with my little notepad, ready to take notes, because I don't know everything. I'm just a really good executor, and I'm really relentless. Like, you can't stop me from showing up unless I don't want to show up. That's one thing. But if I've made a commitment and I'm going to show up, it's like, oh no, I always tell my subscribers. So like we do MarieTV on Tuesdays, and it's the Marie Forleo podcast too. And we always send out an email, and I let people know, I'm like, look, if you don't get an email from me on Tuesday, and it's not like one of our scheduled downtimes or when the company's closed and we let people know, I'm dead. I'm on to my next adventure, right? Unless I've told you, if I don't show up. And when people have that kind of commitment to consistency, no matter what, man, the game changes. But you stay humble, you stay in that student mode, and you keep learning. That's what all of us have to do. You can't coast. That's not what it's about.
I think that thinking about it from that perspective, like I am never going to be the smartest person in the room, and I always have something to be able to learn to bring into the mix is so, so important. Not only to like keep you humble, but also again, like to keep you learning
and growing
and growing.
Yes.
And I think that what you said too is so, so important, because we can look at other people and we can do the comparison thing, or we can also look at certain people as like expanders and be like,
yes,
oh, wow, Marie started from nothing. Oh, okay. Like I want to embody that. And, or like, I can look at my coach and I want to embody that, or this program, and make it like a positive versus
like
we have the power.
Inspiration. It can be beautiful inspiration. And when you're connected to your heart, and when you're connected to the real truth, and I say truth with a capital T, that there's more than enough to go around for everyone. When you're in that state of energy and you are in that state of mind and you're in that alignment, you see people and you find inspiration. It's not a comparison. You're like, oh my goodness, wow, I appreciate that. I actually want to hang out with that. I want to get in proximity with that. I can learn something that can feed my own creativity. And so that's where it becomes beautiful. And you put yourself in the environments where it feels really good. We're seeing other folks achieve or expand. You feel yourself expanding, and you find your own creativity, thinking of like, oh, wow, I would have never considered that. So cool. That's a whole other place to come from. But again, when you're aligned and your heart's really in the right place and you're in touch with the truth that there's more than enough to go around, and you're real secure with who you are, that's when you show up to these places and learn. And you're not doing shots of Comparschlager. You're doing like shots of like celebration Schlager. You know what I mean? You're like, woo, like go for it. Like, you're doing amazing. I want to watch you. Like win, win, win.
Yes. I think so. It's so true. So true. I think that like you said, mindset is everything. And when we have the right mindset, it completely transforms like how we show up, if we show up consistently, all of those things. So tell us a little bit about B School for all of our people who want to start their own thing.
So B School is the online business school for modern entrepreneurs who both want to make money and make a difference. So we've been doing B School now for over 14 years. We've helped over 80,000 entrepreneurs start and grow their business. If you want to learn more, it's not open right now, but if you want to just get on the wait list and just learn about it, you can go to joinbschool.com. But it's essentially the program that I wish I had when I was starting out, and teaches you really step by step this entire system for how to take your unique talent, your voice, your gifts, and how to do authentic, genuine, effective marketing so that you can reach those beautiful financial goals, you can reach those beautiful impact goals, and you can build a truly unique business that's an expression of your DNA, of the difference that you want to make and the way that you want to make it. And it feels really, really, really good. And so we've had folks in the program, Kelley, who, you know, like they slash their work weeks by like 40, 50%, and they're making as much, if not more than they were when they were, do you know what I mean? Like slaving all the time. We have people that started with nothing. And now I met someone, I was doing a book signing late last year, and she was like, Marie, I have a $10 million business. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. She's like, I did B School and it changed everything. And we have so many beautiful stories like that, because the program is all about timeless business wisdom and the application of it, and getting people to really, really ingest understanding these core tools and principles that no matter how the market changes, no matter how you change and evolve, no matter how the tech changes, it doesn't matter. Human psychology has been the same for millennia. And when you get it and you can integrate it into who you are and how you communicate, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So that's B School. We do it. I think we actually might do it again this summer, to be honest with you. But if folks go check out joinbschool.com, you can get on the wait list. You can hear about it. We do scholarships. We do all kinds of fun things. And it's really, really powerful. It's amazing.
I love that. And honestly, like going back like 3 years now and being like, when I think about starting my business, it's like, I wish I would have done that. And I still can. Like, I mean, I'm in the process now of like, I've just hired 2 full-time people. And like, it's definitely something that I've heard you talk about multiple times. And I'm considering, I'm like, okay, like with this phase of growth, like this could be just the support that I need. So
I'll tell you, we go back as a team, myself, we use our own tools anytime, because it's not like I'm such a genius. Like I've really studied for a very long time and put together the things that I was like, this made the difference. This made the difference. That like, these are the things that link it together. And so these are the timeless tools. I have so many students that are like, again, they're crushing it. They come back, we do B School together, because these are the fundamentals that most people, they abandon because they're chasing shiny objects.
Right.
And whenever you want to have a growth spurt, anyone wise knows you go back to mastering the fundamentals. You go deeper. There are always nuances that when you dig under, you're like, whoa. And once you start gaining momentum, you know, and you hit a 6 or 7 figure business, all of a sudden 1 or 2 insights can add literally millions of dollars to your bottom line, because you have so much momentum already. And when you build on a solid foundation, like when you're starting out and you go through B School and people become you're a student for life. Like you pay once and you don't ever pay again.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But
you have that solid foundation. And then all of a sudden, if something's not working, you know exactly how to go back and go, oh, yep, missed that. Yep. You know, like you just kind of go back and retinker and retool. But, you know, for you, if it's the right fit, come join. It's so much fun. Yeah, it's amazing.
And what I love about you, just to like give you some props too, is that like you really do combine the energetics of it all with, again, the fundamentals of like actual tools of business. And I think that you have to be able to do that to like be able to believe in your pricing and all of the stuff that is so critical. So I'm super excited. Yes, I will be there if you do it again this summer.
Yes, we're doing B School Summer School. I think it's actually going to be an expedited program. So yeah, you'll reach out to me, let me know, but it's going to be fantastic. It's amazing.
You have so many programs. You have a program that helps people write books, like, or tell us like a little bit more about, you know, where people can find you and work with you and some of the things.
Yeah. So the general, if you come to MarieForleo.com, MarieForleo.com, that's where you can see all the things. We also have like 500, 600 free episodes of MarieTV in the podcast, tons of resources for free. The Copy Cure is our program for anyone that already has a business or you just not nailing your messaging. I'll tell you this, Kelley. So from doing B School, I kept seeing all these amazing business owners, many of them coaches. And I was like, you're so good at what you do. And I could tell they had integrity and they were great on all these things, but they sucked at communicating about it. Do you know? And I watched that. I was like, damn it. Like, do you know what I know you're really good and you're working hard, but the messaging was missing.
Right.
And so the Copy Cure is a program that teaches people how to write from the heart in a way that gets people to open their wallet. So whether it's your emails, your video scripts, your social captions, like how do you write with personality so that you don't sound like, in all honesty, a robot or ChatGPT, which spits out, frankly, very vanilla stuff. And you can know the best prompts in the world. If you don't know copywriting, your stuff is going to sound like vanilla, like everybody else. And there's a way in which you can connect with people emotionally from the heart through your words. And once again, Cal, this is a skill set. They don't teach us this kind of writing in school, right? No. But it is an art and it's a science and it actually makes you money. So that's the Copy Cure. And then Time Genius is my one, because again, I was obsessive. I was a mess. I was the worst. Like, even though I was so interested in time and I was very efficient and I was very productive, I was also very tortured, very, very tortured.
Yeah.
And so Time Genius is the one where it's maybe one of the things I'm the most proud of, because it helps people completely transform not only their relationship with time, but like we've had folks who were like going to the doctor because they were so stressed out, like they were starting to be diseased and starting to be sick and starting to be ill. And their doctors were putting them on all this stuff. And I'm not kidding you. Like, this almost makes me cry. We have several stories like this where they took Time Genius, which is 5 days, and they went back to their stress doctor. And one woman, I'm thinking of her right now, I can see her face. Her stress was down 40%.
Wow.
5 days. All the other stuff that they were trying to get her to do didn't work because I recognized this sickness because I had it. There was such an obsession around productivity and getting things done and feeling overwhelmed, and you're never doing enough. And no matter how much you're doing, you always should be doing more. And anytime you stop, you think you should be working. And anytime you're working, you think you should stop. Like, it's this sick hamster wheel that can destroy us. Not only destroy our bodies and our health, but also like our happiness and our joy, not to mention not getting things done that are really important to us. So anyway, that's Time Genius. That'll come up in the fall. But if you follow me on the socials at Marie Forleo, we let you know when stuff's up and just come check it out. If you want to do it, great. If you don't, you'll still get great free tools.
I'm going to link all of this in our show notes. That way people can see, each of the different programs and whatnot. I love what you said about the copywriting, because like I've written my own sales pages, and then I've also had like a copywriter do it before. And when it comes from the heart and you know what you're doing, it is so much more effective. And so I love that you shared that.
No, because so many people outsource it, and it's understandable because you're like, oh, well, they're going to do it better because they're a professional. And I always, again, I'm from Jersey. So like, I want to shake people. I'm like, no, I'm like, you don't understand. You are your best marketer. That doesn't mean that you can't have people help you, but the core of it has to come from you, because people can feel it energetically. They can sense it. Even if it's like, this is kind of undetectable to our logical minds. I'm like, listen, I've been doing this 22 years now. Trust me, please. I want to make you money. And I love that you said that, because people are so much more, especially coaches. Yeah. Small business owners, like they're so much more capable. They're so much more creative. And most of us have a lot of hidden hangups around our voice and writing, and we sound like corporate, or, you know what I mean? Like there's just all of these things we need to unlearn. But they're fun. And that particular course, it's like you can binge watch it, I think, in 4 hours, like a Netflix. Like if you've ever watched 4 shows, you can do this and your copy will transform, which means your bank account will transform.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I like you said, you also have so many free resources. One of my favorites is the MarieTV and blog post that you did on judgment. So I'm going to link that in our show notes, because we didn't have time to talk about it. But I so appreciate your time, and I could have you on a million times because you are such a ray of light. Thank you I know your time is so valuable. So thank you so much. And I look forward to this coming out, and know it's going to help so many people. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Yay!
We really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelley. And if you're new around here, you can sign up for the WBK 7-day free trial, where you can get access to all of my low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing, plant-based recipes, and guided meditations, all available on wellnessbykelley.com and on the WBK app.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also connect with us on social media at Wellness by Kelley. Drop us a DM for who you want to hear from.